My name is Barry McDonough. I'm the author of Dare and the creator of the best-selling anxiety treatment program, Panic Away. I have taught everyone from top CEOs and celebrities to police officers, soldiers, and stay-at-home moms on how to end their anxiety and panic attacks fast. In the past 10 years, the Panic Away program has touched over 150,000 lives in 32 countries worldwide. My goal is to now help you to no longer let anxiety define who you are and what you are capable of. If you are ready to take action, I am ready to help you every step of the way. Today, I will give you methods for you to end anxiety attacks.
The general topic for this question, the headline for this question is Suggestions on remaining present while using the thinking mind. The question is, I am present until I need to use my thinking mind, especially for longer periods of time. Any suggestions on staying present or spacious while using the thinking mind? Can you be 100% present if you're using the thinking mind? Is it even desirable? Thank you. In love and acceptance. The secret is, and finally I'm telling you what it is. Almost forgot. The secret is whenever thinking is required, that's even just writing an email or a situation where a decision needs to be made, or you have to draw up some kind of plan, or a situation has arisen that needs some kind of action and resolution, whatever many instances come up during the day when, yes, you need to apply the mind. The vital question is whether prior to applying the thinking mind there is a clear looking at the situation. So there is a space before the mind engages, and in that space your attention goes towards that over the situation, whatever needs to be done, and you're looking visual. It may include actual visual looking, but I'm using the word looking in a wider sense, in the sense of giving attention to whatever it is that needs to be done. So there is a clear space of aware presence prior to the movement of thought. Now, whether this is 3 seconds, whether this is 5 seconds or 10 seconds or half a minute, it will vary from situation to situation. But if immediately you look and you start thinking, often that kind of thinking is also reactive, because there's never a space when there's a reaction. There's a lack of inner space. The reaction is immediate. And the thinking will not be very productive if it's not preceded by that clear looking first, that alert space. If that doesn't precede thinking, no matter how good you are at analytical thinking and how you can dissect a situation, the creative element will not be there in your thought processes. And so it's much less likely that you will come up with a good solution or a good email or whatever, or the right decision in that particular instance. And so people who do not have that access because nobody has told them that this is possible. Again, one of the most vital things that should be taught at school, how to apply the mind. And of course, nobody seems to know it. So when there is no space of attention, the clear looking, the alert looking, prior to the movement of thought, then thought is repetitive and you're most likely just projecting old stuff, and you never have access to higher knowledge, so to speak, which is the creative dimension of consciousness itself. So you have access to the unconditioned consciousness only through that space of clear looking. So in other words, there's a moment when you become still and alert, and the tension flows out to whatever it is. And then the thought may come, or the thought may immediately, if there's something to say, the words will come out of your mouth, and not prepared, then spontaneous flow begins to happen. So, and that you may have to do many times in the process of finding a resolution to something, or if you are a writer, you have to do it continuously, because you continuously have to reach down into the depths of your being, which is the unconditioned consciousness, to access that, so that the mind can continue to function creatively and can be in the service of something greater than the thinking mind, so that the mind is a tool rather than the master pretending to be the master, being in charge. So it's then you learn the process of applying thinking, and then when one particular sequence has come to an end, you step back into clear looking, because there may be more. There may be another thought, something else is required. So as I said, if you're a writer, for example, you continuously have to reach down to the creative dimension, and so it's a continuous process of writing and thinking, which is the outflow. In a way, you could say a creative process is a back and forth between the two movements of the universe, back to the source, return to the source, and going out into creation. So when there's the creative process in you, you go back to the source, which is stillness, but a conscious return to the source, not through sleep. Well, you need to sleep too, but it's not enough to be creative. You can sleep for 12 hours every night. It doesn't make you into a creative person necessarily. You might feel fine, but go back into that, back and forth into clear, spacious, alert presence, and then the mind is applied again. And then it's a wonderful thing as you try it out in daily situations. It works beautifully, stepping back from thought and stepping back into thought, one could say. If thought always is immediately there, we all know people who immediately say something, they immediately have an opinion, they immediately tell you what to do. They already, and usually it's reactive, so it's not only a thought, it's a reactive thought. There may be an emotion behind it, and there's no depth there at all. It's a kind of shallow, a deep human being. What does that mean? And what is a shallow human being? Usually we think a shallow, superficial human being is somebody concerned with externals. How do I look today? But that may be one aspect. Or a shallow human being, somebody who identifies with possessions, with appearance, with possessions, with what people think of me, how I appear to others, and all those things. Yes, that's also true, but there's in another sense, a shallow human being is somebody who has no access to the dimension of depth within them, to the spacious presence. They are trapped only in the thinking mind. So it doesn't necessarily mean, therefore, that a shallow human being is necessarily concerned with appearance or possessions. He may be a person, very intellectual person, but without the depth. So he can write several PhDs and books, but without any depth, with nothing creative, nothing really new there, just another mixture of facts, another mixing facts together in a different way from somebody else, and that's all. And a lot of course, if you've been in the academic world, you know what it's like. But occasionally, here and there, of course, there are creative people there who have access to that. And again, at universities, it's not taught how to use the mind in that creative way. So how deep you are depends on your degree of access to alert presence that always should precede the movement of thought. And then as you practice this more and more, in some strange way that is difficult to describe, even while you are thinking, there is still some access to the alert presence, even while the thoughts happen. It no longer is the case that you get totally into thinking. You never completely lose the connectedness with the alertness, the stillness. And then one can also, of course, speak like that. Even while you're speaking, there is the connectedness. And that's the difference between an inspiring speaker and a boring speaker. I've occasionally gone to conferences, and there's a number of speakers, and it's amazing the difference. And it's not so much to do with the facts that are being conveyed, but the energy behind the presentation. Those speakers who do not have to rely on a script tend to be more powerful because they are connected with the present moment, except for those who think they don't need a script and are not connected to the present moment. They ramble on, and those people should have a script. So it's not enough to throw away your script. You need to then connect to the alert stillness. If you don't, it'll ramble, and everybody goes, oh. So it's a practicing. Even if you have to look for something, become still, you're more likely to realize where it is if you become still first. Where did I put this? Become still for 3 seconds, and you might know. This is a tiny. So back and forth, and then staying connected. That is using the mind, not being used by the mind. And it's non-egoic, because the mind is only egoic when it is using you. In other words, it becomes you, it pretends to be you, and that is the ego.